So welcome back. We're speaking with Angela Blaha about the Akash, and we just had an interesting, really good experience with accessing the Akash. Um, but how can this help in healing people with addictions and thought patterns and beliefs and things like that?
Well, once you feel your own vibration, like when we pulled our energy into our lower chakras, and you felt like the comfort. Did you feel comfortable there, or what was your experience?
Yeah, it was totally fine. It was cool.
I felt like I was anchored, like I was home. You said something about home, and I went, oh yeah, I'm home.
Right. It's that sense of being home. So we don't have to necessarily anchor into the earth. That's one of the old paradigms as well. When we would ground, we'd anchor into the earth. All we need to do is anchor into our own energy system, because our lower chakra system is the earth, right? It's our connection energetically to the earth. So why would we want to access this? Well, to feel our own vibration, right? To feel our own love. Like, love heals absolutely everything. And that's what we do when we pull ourselves into our own being. That's what we feel. That hominess, that sense of peace, that sense of, oh, I've made it, right? There's nothing that can hurt me anymore because I'm in my own energy. And when we heal, when we move into that, like our own emotions, our own patterns, our own thought systems, they become very vivid. And it's instantaneous. It's like, oh, I don't need that anymore. I can get rid of it, right? So I'm going to just get rid of that and bring in more love, because that's who I really am.
So I have a question about this, because in the process of starting to build this house, and what I'm really recognizing for myself is that it's basically a representation of me, right? So the whole it took forever, and it's like, to get this thing going. I mean, Janet will tell you. Somebody asked me over the holidays, when are you planning to be done? And I looked at her and I said, fall of 2014.
Good answer.
Good answer.
But what I'm really realizing in the last few weeks is about being connected as a human with the energy of the planet. And can you speak to that at all, about how important that is and what that really looks like or means?
Right. So what's happening, Roger, is you're moving into unity consciousness, right? Where you're connected with everything. And
all that is.
All that is, yeah. And so your connection with the earth is like literally feeling the earth. I could never ground the way that they used to teach us, where you'd grow your roots down into the earth. I could never do that, because I always felt the earth. I felt the pains, the sufferings, the expansions, everything. And so it was very hard for me. And I was like, okay, mothers, you have to do something different, because I can't do this anymore. And I never would. I would always be up in my higher chakras, which, you kind of float through life that way. But what's happening is your connection with the earth is becoming so strong that you want to feel it. And you want to experience it in a way that you've never experienced it before. So you have to ask yourself, which of my chakras, which of my energy systems is connecting? For you, it's all about bringing foundation to who you are as a human being.
Oh, and look at what are you doing? You're building a literal foundation.
Oh, and I know that. I'm totally aware of that. And it's like all of the misstarts in this whole thing, right? And Janet,
there's been plenty.
Janet knows, right? And it's like, I had a guy, even 2 weeks ago, I had a guy lined up to do the foundation. And the next thing I know, I'm realizing, I'm chasing him to do the job. And it turns out he couldn't have done the job now anyway, because he had a heart problem where he had to have 3 stents put in on last Monday, right?
Yeah.
And so when I had that realization, the next day I started with somebody else, and 8 days later, everything was almost done, right? So, but it's that, yeah. And I think it has to also do what I mentioned before the break, which was my fear of my own knowingness.
Right. Your own wisdom. Gosh,
Right.
isn't that just so beautiful?
And Janet, you're right. It's like I've had conversations about this where it's like I'm looking at building this and then looking at me, and then it's like, okay, this isn't going to get done over here until I take care of me over here. And it's like this building this house is like building whatever it is next for me. And it's like so trippy.
I know.
So how did you access that then, Roger? How did you, I mean, this is the fascinating thing, right? Sometimes these things happen magically, like Roger suddenly, maybe just that recognition that was happening opened up the pathway, or maybe, Angela, are we visiting the Akash in our nightly sleep? Are we working on ourselves when we're asleep?
Actually, we're doing it every moment of every day. Because we are our Akash. And what's happening with Roger right now is the mental body, which has all of our thought processes, and the emotional body are now the feelings that he's having working through the earth and with the earth and building his own foundation, and his own wisdom is coming out. Like the mental body and the emotional body are matching, which bring us aha moments. Oh, that's why that's happening, right? So when those two things match, when our mental body and our emotional body are working together, then what happens is it grounds us into our physical body, and then it opens us up to our spiritual bodies, which is our pure wisdom. And then we're working as one in oneness. It's so beautiful. And I'm so excited for you, Roger.
You're such a good student, Roger.
Thank you. It only took me so long, but I'm here.
Well, that's the point, right? We've arrived. But
yeah, but then it's just because we arrived doesn't mean anything. It's then the next step and the next step, and
exactly.
and so there's just like there's so many lessons in this, and awarenesses like that's not even a word, but
yes, it is.
Yeah,
with a plural. Okay,
yeah.
So awarenesses of this whole process representing life.
Yes. Right. So now where do you get to expand to?
Well,
right. So now once you're healing this up, building this foundation, understanding that you are pure wisdom, pure love, pure truth, then where do you get to expand? Because the doors are opening wider and wider and wider.
And you know, the other thing, and I don't want to make this all about me, but I think it's really interesting is that that in this process, it's like I'm not just hiring somebody. I haven't hired somebody to do the foundation. It's like I was showing Janet my hand before you got online. It's like the guy that I hired to do it is like was totally surprised that I'm actually in there like doing work,
building your own foundation.
Right. It's like I don't know how to do it, but I'm helping the guy that knows how to do it, and in that process, I'm doing it. Versus just saying, okay, here's a check, you build it, let me know when it's done, and then I'll call the next guy. And it's going to be that way through the whole process. And I never thought about it till just now.
Right. Well, that is the process, right? That is your process of building who you are. You're just having the representation of it being in a 3D dimensional building.
Of course, you're a Taurus. That's why.
Cool.
That's absolutely the builders, right? The builders. You're a builder.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to be in the experience of it. Just make sure you rest.
Right. So ask yourself, what else do you get to build?
Because
as a soul, right, as an Akash, what else are you building?
Well, I know that that this whole thing is like when this whole project is done, that whole project is then the foundation for something else. Exactly. And I know when this is done, that then the next thing is going to present itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't worry about what that is right now because I have to be right here.
Yeah.
In the now, in the moment. So is this part of his life purpose then, Angela? I mean, how would he be able to find that out? Is the foundation thing part of his life purpose? Or is that just an adjunct piece of what his actual purpose is? How do you get that purpose?
Well, we have, okay, so the old paradigm says that we came in with one life purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a truth. We have multiple life purposes. And once one purpose is complete, or we've expanded into it as much as we want to as a soul in this lifetime, then we move on to another purpose. And if we run out of purposes, we can always ask for another purpose. Now that gets really trippy.
Well, and if you can see that also reflected like in our parents' generation, yes. Where it's like they went to work at one job and they worked for one job for like 40 years and then they retired and then they did nothing. Whereas now with us, I don't know about you guys, but it's like I've done several different things so far in my life and there's going to be more to come. And then you look at our kids and what they're doing and what they want to do, and they're all over the place in some regard.
Right. Well, absolutely. And I think that's part of the magic of who they are. They're not being held to the same sort of foundational beliefs that we sort of came through.
Well, right. That generation of beings are here to break down all the systems.
Yeah.
And
to move out of survival energy and into more of the emotional
receiving.
Receiving energies. It's kind of fascinating to watch it happen. And I see it because I have grandchildren, children, and then my own self, and I can see this progression of how that's changed. But for most of our listeners who are sitting here, I'm sure that question of life purpose is really important to them. And, you mentioned at the top of the show that, you had discovered your life purpose through going to the Akash. Is that a simple question? What is my life purpose? And it opens up?
Yes.
Is it because there might be different ones? Is it multi-dimensionally, multi-layered kind of information that comes?
Can we let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, you can answer that question.
Okay. Good one, Roger. You're such a good time manager.
Thank you.